What do you think are some of the biggest challenges you think independent musicians face?
I think some of the biggest troubles for independent musicians is, I think, number one would be financial, because the industry is not built in a way to sustain independent music. Especially in India, no one really knows. Too many people support independent music because Bollywood is such a big part of the country. I would say there's a lot of financial stress for independent musicians because there's no clear paths to making money in this industry. I always say that the only people that don't make money in this industry are musicians, because everybody around them is making money. Record labels are making money. People who sell instruments are making money. People who sell software are making money. Marketing companies are making money. But the only people that aren't are musicians, and because of that, it becomes very hard to sustain in this career in the long run because you don't see anything coming in. A lot of people get deterred and they don't want to continue being an independent musician anymore. So I think that is one of the biggest struggles, in my opinion. The only way people make money, musicians make money, is through merchandise, because even streaming doesn't pay you that much. So, for example, if you want to make, let's say, if you have a million streams, you would, if you have listeners from the US, for example, if your audience is from the US and if you have a million streams, you'd make close to $4,000 a month if you have a million streams every month, which is not bad, but it's not great either. It's not enough to sustain a livelihood, and plus, getting a million streams is not easy, right? But if you have listeners from India, then for the same million streams, you'd probably make $1,500 to $2,000 a month. And the reason is because people in India pay way lesser for a Spotify subscription than they pay for in the US. So in the US, your Spotify, what people pay for a month is what people pay for a year in India. That's how it usually works. So to make money through streaming, very tough. So that's out of the question. Making money through gigs, again, in India, performing gigs, making a good income is again very hard, because you have the band, you have the sound engineer, you have a lot of people, so it gets split between everyone. You don't walk away with too much money. So the only way where you really have control, where you can really make money, is through merchandise. And this is how it works even with some of the biggest artists out there. They make a lot of money through selling merch. If you want to have a sane, happy life, I would not recommend doing it, because it comes with a lot of struggle and pain, and luck plays a big factor in the whole thing. So if you're okay with luck playing such a big factor, I would say go for it. But other than that, I would say it is a tough profession to be in.
So I think the current scenario is in such a way that musicians can't only be musicians; they also have
Yeah.
to. They also have to know a lot about music promotion, and I think
Yeah.
that is a bigger part of the skill set that they acquire to be a successful
Yeah.
musician. So, what are your thoughts on that?
Yes, I agree with that. You can't look at music as just making music. I think it's more about trying to understand it as a business, because at the end of the day, you are in the business of music, and your songs are your product. So you have to figure out a way to sell your product. Although it's it's a weird. The problem is most musicians consider themselves as artistic and creative, so they don't want to get into the nitty gritties of like promotion. Not too many people enjoy that entire process, but in my opinion, it is very important. Learn how to market, how to do some basic marketing, or just figure out how to get your music out there, because what's the point in making the best song in the world if no one gets to hear it, right? So you need to figure out a way to do that. Also, people say that you got to put out 2 reels a week. You can't do that with music. Music takes a lot more work than that. There's writing, production, arrangement, mixing, mastering. There's a lot that goes into the whole thing. So the only way you will see any progress is in a couple of years, unless you get lucky and your song is used as like one of the TikTok songs or whatever. But for most musicians, it takes a while to see some sort of growth. So to stay in the game, I would recommend doing something on the side, maybe teaching or some other side gig or something that pays money, so that you can continue to do this in the long run.
Yeah, that makes sense. I think like you already mentioned, like I think technology and social media, it's always evolving and changing. And how do you think artists should, I guess, navigate the whole social media journey, starting from the very beginning? Like, how would you recommend people start
I think
and go about it?
yeah, the constant change of the algorithm, all that really, I think, pisses off a lot of musicians, because at the end of the day, musicians are not content creators, but unfortunately musicians are being made into content creators, so that's a bit of a pain. But I would, the goal for musicians should ideally be just would be to just be authentic, in my opinion, because trends keep changing, and for someone to keep following those trends and doing like a TikTok dance or doing anything like that,
Mhm.
although their music is talks about heartbreak and all of that stuff, for them to like do something that doesn't fit with their persona, which is what trends usually are, you just it's everyone's got to do the same thing, but artists usually inherently are introverted. They put out all their feelings in their music. They don't want to come out and do those dances, all of that. So I also personally find that very annoying that artists have to succumb to this sort of a trend.
Yeah.
But to be honest, I think in today's day and age you probably have to do that. So I would recommend to musicians would be to be authentic. Eventually something should work out, because if you keep following trends, it's never ending.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Yeah, I think it's so interesting that you mentioned you have to be like a TikTok, I guess, or like I guess like an Instagram like trendy kind of person
Yeah.
if you're like an artist. Because yeah, I think in my opinion, like it's almost like you're asking too much, and I think like you said, people aren't as open to doing that, but they have to. So,
Yeah. And I guess with musicians also, they've already poured their heart and soul out in their music. And for them to do some of the cringy stuff that I've seen online is just asking for a lot. I know a lot of musicians can't get themselves to do it. Um, but unfortunately, if you want to be the famous kind of musician, you got to do that. But yeah, it's a tough world, man. You either got to sell yourself in some way or the other. Spotify CEO says the same thing. He says musicians need to put out, I think he said 2 songs a month or something, which is, man, it's very hard to put out one song in a month, like once, let alone, yeah, two. So unfortunately, it's come down to that. That's the kind of music that Spotify is pushing out. That's the kind of artist that Spotify is pushing out now. Someone who makes content instead of music. So it's a bit of a tricky situation we're in right now. So yeah, we'll see what happens down the line.
also, okay. So the second question for you is, do you hold any unpopular opinion in your industry or field?
Unpopular opinion. I do actually hold a lot of unpopular opinions. I think one of the I think I'm not gonna deter anyone, but making a career in the music industry for independent artists is extremely difficult. I'm assuming this is a popular opinion. I don't know if it's unpopular, but I think this is something I stand by, and I also tell artists we work with. But all the artists that are making music that are doing this are just so crazy. Everyone just wants to do it for the love of music, which I absolutely love. But I think sustaining a career in the music industry as just an independent musician is close to impossible. I think you got to do something else on the side, or you got to figure out a way that can fund your music career. I think, yeah, that would probably be my unpopular opinion.
Yeah, yeah. I think that makes sense. Yeah, and I think it's also good advice. Like, do something on the side to like
Yeah,
support
yeah,
your main passion.
yes.